Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast is number 1347. The topic is Q&A, and the title is, How Can I Increase Daily Energy? Great question. Unfortunately, I do have a client who is struggling with this. They have an immune system kind of disorder that causes them to be very fatigued. So they sleep between 8 to 10 hours a night, and they still have a hard time kind of staying awake during the day. They'll fall asleep if they're sitting in a chair, or kind of just not doing anything. Now, that's, a lot to look into. You can look into sleep apnea issues. That can be often a cause of why sleep doesn't feel restorative. Then there's also, if somebody over-abuses caffeine, their sleep quality will be lessened, and that has some issues as well. But what I want to do today is kind of talk through what's some suggestions I give to clients and people when they have issues like this. What's kind of the most effective ones, and then what are the kind of more obscure type things. So if you are in need or just wanting to increase daily energy, and no matter how much caffeine you take, it just doesn't seem to be helping, that's the idea of what today's podcast will help with. So for example, running the gym, especially in the early years, I was training clients 50 hours a week. So that's face-to-face talking to human beings for 50 hours. And then I also wrote other programs, cleaned the gym, had to do, financial stuff, all the other work of owning a business. And then also I had to work out myself. So I remember at that time, if I was drinking a Monster energy drink, that would have, say 320, I don't know, I forget how many milligrams of caffeine they have in them, but let's say it had 240 milligrams of caffeine, is I could drink that and I would fall asleep at my computer typing an email while drinking the energy drink. So, because at that time I was just so damn tired. There was, it didn't feel like caffeine was doing anything. So if you are in that same kind of position where you've been taking a lot of caffeine and it doesn't seem to be working, I have one client, a former client I used to work with, and she would consume around 1,100 to 1,200 milligrams of caffeine a day. Ridiculous. Way too much. And she would talk all the time about being tired. And I had the hardest time getting her to reduce her caffeine intake and then try to find any other thing. And it was just basically the efficacy, the usefulness, the effect the caffeine was having was none. So it really wasn't helping anymore. She needed to come off of it and actually reduce it and give her adrenal glands and her body some time to heal up. And she just wouldn't do it. So I felt, bummed for her that she wouldn't try something new, even though what she was doing wasn't helping. So it's always a little confusing at those times. But I think we all have that tendency in our own mind to where we'll stay with something that's familiar, even if it's harmful, just because we fear that a change is more harmful. Unfortunately, that change is often the only way to get away from the harm, but I do understand kind of the challenge of accepting that reality and then putting yourself at risk to, experience the change. So, little side note there, side conversation, but what I want to do today is how can I increase my daily energy? The first thing is what the client is already doing is nutrition. Overwhelmingly, most people undereat during the day, so you're running the machine of your body without proper fuel. It's not going to feel super great. You're just going to kind of feel slow, feel lethargic. Your body's also going to be sending you signals to sit the hell down. And I think we've all had that feeling where, let's say, you had a long day out on your feet. Maybe you're outside, doing gardening, doing yard work. Maybe you went, shop till you drop at the mall for a couple hours, but you're up on your feet, maybe amusement park. You're up on your feet a lot, walking around a lot, and then all of a sudden later in the day, any surface whatsoever that you can physically sit on, you'll start to sit on. Doesn't matter if it's a handrail, an actual chair, a ledge on some kind of wall structure. Just if there's something you can put your butt on, you're going to put your butt on it because you're just tired, right? Well, if we don't eat enough during the day, which most people don't, you're going to want to put your butt on anything. So you're not going to feel super active. You're not going to feel kind of energetic to take on new challenges and take on the world when your body's sending you signals to sit down. So getting more food earlier in the day helps a lot. I mean, overwhelmingly, ridiculously a lot. And this is by far the biggest effect I see with clients is if they're skipping breakfast or just eating a really crappy small breakfast, or their breakfast is a cup of coffee. And then lunch is random, completely random foods. And then they tend to eat a dinner, and then they eat some more food right before they go to bed. So the bulk of their food is at night. Clients who have that structure previously, and then they make the change to start eating more in the day, we shift their calories to be balanced throughout the day. And then hopefully eventually we work to having their calories being, more so in the beginning of the day. But if I can even get them to being balanced throughout the day, they feel a huge boost of energy. And that's often one of the first and kind of biggest positives that they see and feel. So that is by far the most impactful thing you can do. And it also helps your body have the proper nutrients, the proper material to manage repair throughout the day. So as we move throughout the day, as we do things throughout the day, it causes stress in our body and structural tissues. So if we have enough food throughout the day, a proper protein content, then our body is kind of dealing with that stress as it's happening. We tend not to feel as drained as early in the evening, and we don't feel as worn out, like say by the end of the week. So if you're a person where like by the time Friday night rolls around, you're falling asleep at 6 p.m., if you look at your food and you say, oh yeah, I do kind of undereat during the day, I don't eat a lot of protein, this could be one of the reasons why I'm feeling that way. Now, how much is a lot of protein? A minimum that I would recommend for people is 0.6 grams per pound of body weight. Now, this is kind of lean body weight. So if you weigh 200, but really you would kind of like think, okay, I probably look good around maybe 150. Well, then it's 0.6 grams per 150. So you would look at 60% of 150 pounds. And if I try to do that, 150 pounds, it's around 90 grams. I think like 90 grams of protein. Now, for a lot of people, that will seem like a lot if they don't normally pay attention to their protein. So you can track that in like an app like MyFitnessPal or any kind of food app. There's My Macros and there's about 4 million other ones. But if you track it in a food app, you'll see how much protein you're having throughout the day. Or just look at the nutrition fact labels of the foods you eat throughout the day if your food does have a label on it. And just notice how much protein. If you're not even getting in 90 grams of protein, that's low. That's low. So if you're not even getting that, you're definitely going to have a lot of aches and pains and wear and tear on the body that's causing you to feel tired when it's actually just under-fueled recovery processes. Okay. So a podcast we can listen to kind of help understanding of this is podcast 1147. It's a nutrition podcast titled Eat Early, Eat Often, Eat to Match. That will help a lot. So that's the biggest effect. Boom, boom, boom. Big thing. So make sure you give attention to that if you are having energy issues. Next thing we want to look at is creating a healthier sleep pattern. Too often people don't try to go to bed at a consistent time. There's a million reasons for this, but one of the reasons I see often is people struggle throughout the day to just keep up. They spend all day taking care of the to-dos and running errands and taking care of everybody else. So by the time the evening comes around and everybody's, either in bed or they're calming down for the day and no one's pushing and pulling at you anymore, you now think, okay, now's my time. I didn't have time for myself all day. Now I get to have time for me. And then usually we do really low quality things like watching TV or Netflix or stuff like that, or just scrolling through social media for an hour or two, basically just doing nothing actually productive because we're too damn tired for anything productive, but yet we still want that time for ourselves. So there's a lot of issues that factor into sleep patterns, but it's extremely helpful for daily energy to have a consistent time of going to bed. Now there's been a lot of studies and a lot of like just self-reported effects to where you can go to bed at the same time every night, but even if you have different waking times, you'll still feel much better energy levels by going to bed at the same time. So some days I have to get up at 6, some days I don't have to get up till 8, but as long as I always go to bed at 10, then I'm going to feel really good in comparison to when I was sleeping more inconsistently. So that's really, really helpful, is trying to get a healthier sleep pattern. So we do have a podcast about that. It's titled, it's podcast number 1149. It's a mindset podcast titled Creating a Healthier Sleep Pattern. And there's tips within the podcast. And there's a lot of stuff that, you might listen to it. There might be, 10 tips and you're like, well, I don't like 3 of them. I'm never going to do those. 2 or 3 of them might be really hard to do because it's abnormal for me. It's not my normal habits, but I could probably take 1 or 2 of those and do really well with it. That's the idea of the podcast, is hear all of the things that are thrown out as tip, like in terms of tips, and then try to implement a couple, see how you do. So a couple out of the podcast is like reducing what's called blue light, which is what electronics send to our face, like laptops, phones. And it's very stimulating for the neurological system. So it makes you feel more awake, even though the underlying systems are super fatigued and they want to go to bed. So reducing time in front of electronics is very helpful. Another one that's incredibly helpful is to not doze off on the couch, but instead go to your bed. So if you're sitting down at like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, you normally watch some TV and typically fall asleep, but then you have to get up. You have to, wash your face, brush your teeth, do some odds and ends, then get into bed. Then all of a sudden find yourself laying there for a half hour. Well, don't lay on the couch and doze off. First of all, get your face washed, brush your teeth, do all that stuff before you sit down, and then sit down in your bed. So sit down in your bed, try to read a book, try to listen to a podcast, an audiobook, something like that. But the idea is to avoid kind of awakening behaviors late at night. So don't take like showers late at night. For some people, that makes them awake. Don't eat a meal with high carbohydrates late at night. That can often make people feel awake. That also then makes you have to pee 2 or 3 times throughout the night, which makes you wake up. Some people I've had to talk to and kind of get them off their phones because they were answering emails and doing check-ins of different things, like some of the personal trainers I work with. And I'm like, don't be doing check-ins at 10:30 at night. It's just going to keep you up. Or if they're playing games, whatever the hell the most popular game is on your phone, people will do that sometimes. They'll just play like random games. Maybe they'll scroll through, Instagram stories or Reels or TikTok or whatever it is. You just want to kind of back off on all that. Try to lay in your bed at the same time every night. And even if you're not planning on going to bed right away, that's okay. Listen to an audiobook. Read a hard copy book. If you have a partner, maybe just talk about your days. How did your day go? How did your day go? You can practice, gratefulness. What was something today that made you really happy? Was there anything today that you thought was really interesting or out of the ordinary? Just talk for a little bit. And, those things all sound probably really corny and yeah, right. But they do help. They do make a difference. So if your daily energy is low enough and you're miserable enough, you might actually try some of this stuff. Then we do have podcast number 376 is a mindset podcast titled Improving Sleep Quality. And that actually covers on how to improve the quality of your sleep. So podcast 1149 was a sleep pattern, which is kind of getting into bed. How do you manage kind of your mindset for that and other things? Podcast 376 is once you're in bed, how do you maximize sleep quality? The temperature of the room. Is there light in the room, or do you have it like blackout curtains? Do you have a light blanket on you? Because our skin actually registers different flows of air. And if you put a light blanket or a light sheet on your skin, that can actually desensitize your skin to the change of the environment around you, and that can actually help you fall asleep. Watch sounds, Some people sleep with noise machines. They'll have like some kind of machine that makes like a low hum, so that way it drowns out random little, cracks and creaks and weird noises, and that can help create some more consistency because, again, we're hardwired to react to our environment. So if there's a change in sound, if there's a change in wind current, there's a change in, the light around us, even smells will wake people up. You want to try to neutralize and control all of that as much as you possibly can. So those are by far the 2 kind of most impactful things is nutrition timing, making sure you eat earlier in the day, and paying attention to your sleep habits. Now, we do also have, of course, there's caffeine. Caffeine has about a 6-hour half-life. So when you drink it, it's going to be effective for about 6 hours. Now, you might say, yeah, right, I drink a cup of coffee and I want another one in 20 minutes. So it's a little bit different per person depending on how often they use caffeine and how sensitive they are just kind of genetically and naturally to caffeine. Some people will take a caffeine drink in the morning and they're kind of hardwired, like up and active all day. Some people can drink caffeine and fall asleep. So it really depends on the individual, but I would definitely recommend if you use caffeine, only have it once a day, and then aim for non-caffeine based energy supplements at the other times of the day. This helps reduce negative impact on cortisol, which is a stress hormone. It helps increase or maintain the efficacy of caffeine, so you don't feel like you have to continually drink more and more and more and more over time. So really, caffeine is good once a day. Get your big, bang for your buck whenever you need it. Most people take caffeine right when they wake up, but you'd be surprised. If you got up and just drank like a half a liter of water, cold water, and just started moving, you'd often feel more awake than you recognize. And then you might not need caffeine for 2 or 3 hours into the day or until kind of mid-morning. And that helps you kind of just get a better kind of blast and full usage of caffeine throughout the day. Now, there are non-caffeine supplements, such as like guarana root, green tea, ginseng, vitamin B12. Those kind of things can give you energy boosts, but they're not caffeine. So that way you can kind of reduce caffeine stimulation, especially if somebody has like blood pressure issues, that kind of stuff. There is options for energy other than caffeine. Now, the company Now, N-O-W, they have a pill called Now Energy, and that's something that I've had clients use in the past with success. And we typically take that about 1 or 2 hours before when they would feel tired. So if they typically feel tired at 2 in the afternoon, we have them take the pill at noon, with lunch, something like that. And it kind of gets them through that afternoon slump. Now, the other part of why people have afternoon slumps is because they don't eat enough throughout the day. So make sure you get your calories earlier in the day. So there's a lot of things right there that we can do. Now, the last one I'll throw out there is something I use with my aesthetic clients. So I've helped clients earn pro cards in aesthetic sports. And when it comes to that type of focus, that type of goal, they are more willing to structure their lives around what they need for that goal. What this leads to is they do need more sleep throughout the day to help them recover between workouts and make sure they can actually fully support their growth processes. What we typically do then is we try to do timed naps or quiet times throughout the day. This helps to kind of reduce stress on the CNS, reduce cortisol for the day, which improves their overall recovery process. So we schedule quiet time into their day as much as we can. Now, they can be small moments, just 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, where they just kind of close their eyes. Maybe they fall asleep. Maybe they just have it be quiet. It just helps them kind of bring down their stimulation, which helps overall towards our muscle building process. So, like I have one trainer, for example, her schedule is she wakes up at 6 in the morning. She eats before 7 a.m. and she has clients from 7:30 to 11:30. So she has 4 hours of clients in the morning. She'll eat right after her last client in the morning. So she eats around 11:40, 11:45, and she has a quick meal, and then she has quiet time from noon to from 12 to 12:50, and then she gets up and she gets into her workout by around 1 o'clock. She works out and has space for her workout between 1 o'clock to 2:30. She eats right at 2:30, then she has clients from 3 to 7. So she has 8 hours of clients a day. She then eats right after her last client, and then she has the rest of the night to kind of relax, maybe update some client information, do whatever she wants to do, and she's typically in bed around 10 o'clock, and she'll read a book, listen to audiobooks, do something, and she says she's usually passed out by 10:15, 10:20. And that's kind of her day. Now, does everybody have 50 minutes in the middle of the day to have quiet time? No, but she didn't either. She made it. She knew it was important for her needs, her goals, her mental sanity, her self-care, so she made it work that way. Not everybody will have the ability to do that, but a lot more people have the ability to do it that just don't do it. So, if you're like a college student and you have a random schedule throughout the day, finding 20 minutes to just close your eyes, turn the lights off in your room, and just kind of breathe and relax can really help improve improves like self-care and just how stressed you feel, but it also improves overall sleep quality and energy levels because you tend to feel kind of more refreshed right after that quiet time. So it is very helpful. It sounds, again, like who in the world has time to do that? I understand that. Maybe you can't do it every day. But knowing that that's something that is beneficial is something that maybe you can say, you know what, I do believe I can just take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe, if I'm in my home office, turn off the lights, kind of close the blinds, close my eyes and just sit and breathe for 5 minutes. Just set a timer for 5 minutes on your phone and just shut the world out for 5 minutes. It helps a lot. So these are all kind of tips on what you can do to increase daily energy. The most impactful thing by far is nutrition. So you want to listen to podcast 1147. Eat early in the day, eat often throughout the day, and eat to match means like if I'm doing high activity, I want high calories. If I'm doing low activity, I want low calories. So you're going to eat to match. So that's going to explain more in that podcast. Then the other most impactful thing is just paying attention to our sleep pattern and our quality of sleep. So that's podcast 1149 and podcast 376. Awesome. If you use caffeine, only use it once a day. You can use other like non-caffeine based supplements, guarana root, green tea, ginseng, vitamin B12. And again, the supplement Now, N-O-W, Now Energy is a good option that a lot of clients have found helpful. Okay, well, hopefully this helps. I wish you the best of luck. If you have any questions or you need anything as a follow-up, just reach out. Our email is brutalironjim@gmail.com. Awesome. I hope this was helpful. If you do like our podcast, please consider sharing it. The more people we share it with, the more people we can help. You can share it on social media. You can share it in a conversation with a friend. However you share it, I appreciate it that you do, and I'm sure they'll appreciate it because hopefully it'll help them. Thank you to the patrons of the podcast, the people who financially support the podcast, which you can now do so on our website, www.brutalironjim.com. We have a one-time donation, monthly donation, yearly donation options. It's very helpful. The podcast is well over $1,000 a year to host, and I give an hour to it every single day. So I truly appreciate the help so we can keep doing this every single day and keep it for free. Also, if you like the information we share in our podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and at YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Jim. If you have any questions, feedback, suggestions, anything that you want to know, let us know at our email, brutalironjim@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.